Let's go.
Let's
Welcome
go,
to
Jake.
the pod. This is going to be a lot of smiles, a lot of energy because I'm here with the best-selling author of the book Every Shot Counts: Navigating Life's Fairways and Bunkers to Create Fulfillment. My man, Kevin Donoher, in the stage. What's going on?
What's going on, Jake? Appreciate being here, man. And can't thank you for all the help in making this dream come a reality. I'm sure we'll get to the steps that happen here, but it's crazy how the dots connected for this to happen with your company. So excited to be here.
Yeah, this is gonna be interesting because I wanna break this down in a few different segments today. I want to talk about the backstory here of how we actually got connected and what the time frame of all this was. Then I want to
Yeah.
talk about how we actually did the book and how you got it done like so quickly. Then we're gonna talk about why you chose to do some really cool stuff in terms of the book style, and then we'll talk about some of the emotions that came with it and some of the actual tangible things people could take away. So let's kick this off, man. Talk to the people about like when did you first have the idea of a book? Why did you think about it? And how did our random interaction years ago lead to you committing to this book?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of like steps that happen here. And it's been through the course of maybe like 10 years. So it's fun to see this come to fruition. I'd say like to take it back to the book aspect, it's always been in the back of my mind. I would say probably like since like, even college days. I just loved reading and I liked writing. Like it felt like a gift I had. So it was funny, like all my friends, we've been in a fantasy football league for 23 years, and I would actually write like every week of power rankings. They loved it. And I just liked writing. Never actually saw myself writing a book, but I always like maybe someday I will, right? And then fast forward to I think it was like 2018 time frame. So the year of 2018, I'm living in Southern California. My wife and I had just had our first kid. He was about 1.5. Crazy time in my life, had started a new job, got the new kid. We're trying to figure all this out. And I'm not going to lie, like it was a very challenging year. So in my day job, I'm in enterprise software sales, and that year was, I would say especially challenging for me. Um, the kid, everything. And I remember just being like really negative a lot. Like it would just like when things would bog down on me, I would impact that energy out. Right. And I felt like I was creating kind of more of like a hostile household, with my wife, with my kid. So I loved reading. My favorite book ever, I have the two up here, is The Alchemist. Love the parable style journey. I've read it 3 times when I made 3 major life decisions, spoke to me every time. So I was looking around like, what book do I want to read now? Because books had always spoken to me when I needed them the most. So I bought the energy bus. I was like, hey, got a lot of negative energy pent up right now. Like I need to change this. Read that book in like a week, right? I was hooked. And really, I think that was late 2018. It's like I need to change my energy around. I need to change my mindset, right? Be a more positive person. Translate that to 2019, then I got the itch to, okay, like, I'm gonna start writing a book. And what's funny is when I changed my energy to be positive, 2019, really I took the next step in my career and haven't looked back since. Every year I've built on that success. But in 2019, once I started seeing that success and like, wow, this like book really changed my life, I got that like pulling an itch, like, what if I write a book? Like if my book can make an impact on one person's life, just like John Gordon's Energy Bus has impacted mine, just like Paulo's Alchemist has impacted mine. Like, that's pretty cool, right? And we'll get to some of that, and that's really what the book is about. So I just started writing, man. So what I did was another book, Building a Story Brand. That was a book they gave out at our sales kickoff that year, and it was more about how to tell a software story. I was like, hey, I'm writing a book. I'm gonna use this. How do I tell a book story, right? So I had known that I wanted to do this like, parable type of story, just given, those are my two favorite books that I dedicated to. Sat down, I thought about, okay, now how do I do this? And at that same time, I'd started picking up golf. I'm still not very good. I wish I was as good as the player in the book, but um, what I loved about golf was like it always showed like the things I was weak at, like things I need to work on in my life, they find you on a golf course. Right. And so there's so many, I would say, like parallels to like a golf round in life. So I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm going to write about a golf book. And then I just sat down and I mapped out, you know, who the main character was, like who's going to be his guide, right? They say like have a guide in this story, like who's going to guide him, what problems does he have, and then how does he walk out of this book better than he was before, which is what I want every reader to, right? I want you to read this book and be a better person than you were before you
Yeah.
started. So that was it, man. So I wrote it in about a year. I'd spend Saturday nights if I was just hanging out. If I was on a road trip where it was a little more quiet, I'd sit in my hotel room and do it. And then 2020 hit, got pretty close to finishing it. And then the funny part, I know I'm going on, but it's a long quest is, and then around then, like I just stopped, I just kind of like stopped doing anything with it. I had this probably 80 to 90% manuscript sitting on my desktop, and work was going good. It was like a good thing. I was like very busy. We were doing really well. And so the book kind of took a backseat to all that. We had our second kid, and then I would say last year, like this time last year, I'm like, I need to get this done. Like I know I've said it every year in my goals. I need to get this book done, and every goal has taken priority over this. So I said, if I do one thing in 2024, I'm going to get this done. Right. I really, I'll have to think of his name. There's, what's he called? His Masogi. He talks about like doing one thing every year.
Okay.
Like that's my thing. 2024 book is done. Right.
Yeah.
So then I'm going to take this back to then 2018, right when the book's getting written, I meet you, right? So Jake connected with my best friend, one of my best friends, Joey Graham. They're both, entrepreneurs, hustlers. They make stuff happen, right? I love being around those people. We get connected, right? We had a similar background story with you worked for the Lakers. I worked in college basketball for a few years. You were doing the pro basketball combine at that time, got to gum to it, got to, experience it.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I'm
Yeah.
like, I remember sitting next to Desmond Bain, who's now out here like averaging 12,
Yeah.
right? So there's a lot of good players. And then you started doing the Elevate Your Network, right? So like we knew each other, we connected a few times. And then I saw within the last like year or two that you guys had, started Big Idea to Bestseller. And so when that happened, like to bring it all full circle, I'm like, look, how do I get this book published? And I think what scared me for a few years was the process of finding a literary agent, finding a publisher, all the work that goes into that, right? Like it was scary and time consuming. And I just didn't have the time. I was busy with,
Yeah.
my career. So when I started following you guys, and then finally, like that was my plan this year. I'm like, all right, like let me fine tune it. I'm gonna get this manuscript done. I'm gonna reach out to Jake. And then you had started this company in that time, and it was like, dude, it was like a godsend. I'm like, all right, I know what I'm gonna do. I read your book, and even
Yeah.
then, I was like, you could do this on your own, but that's gonna be just more time and money. Like I'd rather work with your team, do it the right way, like have that
Yeah.
expertise. Never, published a book, and it was the best decision I ever made. So
Yeah.
here
Dude,
we are. Here we are with it.
there we
Finally,
are, man. It looks good. It looks
we're done. So
good.
I know that was a lot, but that was the story.
Yeah.
That's
So I want to kind of highlight some of the key timelines here because I think this is so relevant to everyone who's listening to this. You've had a 10-year pipe dream of wanting to write a book, an inkling. You've thought about it even longer, but you've had about 10 years where you really thought about it. You've had about 6 years since you first picked up, the idea and started journaling about it, started writing the manuscript. Then it paused because it wasn't the priority and you didn't know what you didn't know. And that was why you didn't continue to do it because you didn't know how to do the rest of it.
Yep.
Then you see us through a relationship that we had kind of been building here and there. You've been seeing the content and you were like, this is the path. You committed to the path. And then within several months, you went from all of that to it's done, it's out, published, launched, bestseller status, boom, all in the year that you said you would. And I think that that's such a testament to not only, what you said about our process, but it's really a testament to you making that decision and then getting the right information to be able to follow through on that decision. And now your book's out there impacting people. I know that I've already shared it with quite a handful of people because I'm also a new golfer. And so I want to talk to you about this, man. Like that's a great story to get us there, right? You talked about in this adventure that you had wanted to do it. You kind of got stuck at a certain point. What made you believe, or what was the tipping point that you were like, I need to get this done in 2024. There's no more waiting. And I need to work with Big Idea to Bestseller. Like, what was the driving force that led to those decisions in your process?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I think it was about a year ago was, because I was sitting down and I was thinking about my goals for 2024, right? And so I had done a lot, like other goals that I wanted to accomplish. And this has been the biggest one that I haven't done yet, right? And so I think it was that, but then I went back, I opened up the manuscript. I'm like, all right, where do I even start again? Because it's just been sitting there. I would touch it maybe once or twice a year. So I just reread through it, one night. And selfish, like personally, it's selfish. Like I think it's a good book. Like, and I just was like, wow, I wrote that. Like it was like one of those things because it's been so long, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's pretty good. Like, I don't know. Like, I think it's pretty good. And I think it needs to get out here. So I'm like, I'm going to do it. So about a year ago, I was like, all right, that's my number one. I have other things I want to do in 2024. But like, if I end this year with a book published, all the other things will fall into place. But this is what I'm going to focus on. And I had to do that around, my work schedule. Like, right. I don't have all day to sit here and, write a book or get it published. Like I'm doing
Yeah,
this
you
at home.
got young kids, you got a wife, you got a full-time job. You're executing, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm waking up at 6 a.m. to write. That's, I'm doing the early, that's my hour to get it done. I think when I was trying to get it finished, right, it's either stay up late or do it in the morning. And so to get to Bib, the big process for me was, time is so valuable. You just mentioned it, right? I read your book. We went to my wife and I went to Portugal for a company trip, and it was awesome. And so now I'd finished my manuscript, right? So this is the spring of this year. It's going by fast. It's crazy. So this is June. And now I'm like, all right, I'm ready to take this work and get it done. Like I feel really good. It's close to the finish line. So on the 9 hour flight over that we had, right, I read your book in the full setting. And so I was taking notes, and then we get back. I think it's like mid-June at this point. And I'm like, I could do this. I like, you could, like, you give, like, if someone wants to be like a do-it-yourself, like right here, I know it's back there. We got it right here. Like I got all the stuff, right? You can self-publish and do it. Like, but it's a lot of work, and it's going to probably cost you more time and money in the long run. And so for me, it was like, I'd rather invest this in with Bib and not spend the time to have to go find different publishers or content
Yeah.
designers or book writing coaches, because like for me, like I'm in sales, like every day, every hour matters, right? Like, I don't want to spend 2 hours doing this, not with my family. So that's what led me to you guys. I'm like, look, it might be a little bit more, but that what I'm going to save in terms of like the professional uh, way that you guys did it and the time that I'm going to do it is probably going to actually make, save me money in the long run by working with
Totally.
you guys. Because I think that's a barrier for self-publishers. Like I have to pay the editors, I have to pay the cover designers, right? There's all these fees that go into it.
Yeah.
Whereas yours is just a seamless process. And I can talk through that too if you want, but it was, I mean, unbelievably, incredibly smooth. I mean, we met in late June.
Yeah.
Back there, we shook hands, said, let's do this. And we had the book ready to publish by late October. That's how fast it
Yeah.
was. Crazy.
Yeah. No, and that's amazing, man. Like talk to me a little bit about this, for people that are out there and they want to write a book, but they're hesitant, right? They're like, should I be investing into this project? Is this a priority for me? Like once you made that decision to work with us, like how would you describe the level of support and guidance that you received throughout the process?
Yeah. So I got to do number one, I got to shout out Mikey. She is unbelievable. Like unbelievable. You said she was, and you never have expectations doing something for the first time, right? I was like, all right, we're gonna have fun with this, but like over delivered, over killed it. So she was awesome. I gotta show love to Mikey.
And
Uh,
Mikey, for everyone
yeah,
that's listening, Mikey's one of our author success coordinators, and their job is to walk our clients through the process, be there every step of the way, and support you along the way. So it's awesome
yeah.
to hear that she just nailed it for you.
Oh, so I wouldn't get done without her. So the level of sport was incredible. So, working with Mikey every day in that role, we would meet probably like once a week as we were getting it started, right? So we had a game plan. They have the process. So working with, the nice part was I had most of the book done. But still, working with David, one of the writing coaches, like he had like some really good critical information that was missing from the book, and I thought really tied it together. So like especially at the ending too, he's like, hey, I think you shouldn't do this, and I'm like, dude, yeah, why didn't I think about this, right?
Yeah.
So just even though the book was done, it wasn't done. There were still elements that were missing. So David helped with that, and then once we went through, I mean, it was so easy to go through from the editing to the copy editing to the cover design. I mean, the level of support's incredible. And that's what it goes back into what I was just saying was for me to have to go outsource and do all that myself, like I probably would have got stuck again, Jake. I probably would have got like to like
Sure.
editing and then been like, okay, maybe 2025 is the year for the book, just because there is so much to it. You know, it's you can do it, but there's so much to making
Yeah.
this a professional launch. And then so just all that seamless going through that process, you know, we had our timeline, we went through it. I said, hey, I really want to launch in November. I had this vision of doing it back home for Thanksgiving. And I mean, we were done by like mid-October. We had like a month to spare.
Yeah.
And even the support then to, okay, how do we launch this, right? The launch, game plan to get to bestseller, which worked right at the strike of like almost by the strike of midnight
Yeah.
Wednesday, we got it there. So the support means more than like, you know, you could ever know. I know this is what you guys do all the time, but dude,
All
it's
right.
you made it
So,
happen.
so, so, Kevin, talk to me about this a little bit because I do want to talk about the main character Jack here in a little bit and the parallels between golf and the parable style of book. But I want to kind of wrap up the process part of this segment here and talk about the launch. Like
Mhm.
for you having this be such a important goal for you and then being able to host a launch party, you know, on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving in your hometown, right? It was in your hometown, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And you had people come and like what did that feel like? How was launch day for you? How was it when you found yourself at number one? Like talk me through what that day of emotions was like and how it's felt since you did the thing you've been dreaming of for so long.
Yeah, it was a wild day. Like now that we're like almost a week past it, right? And we got in, we flew late from Phoenix. So I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. Now I flew from Phoenix to Dayton, Ohio Tuesday night. So we get like to sleep at like 1:30 in the morning, you know, and then you wake up, you're kind of like dealing with the time zone stuff. And I was like, okay, this is the party night. Like we gotta get going, right? So the party was amazing. You know, my wife and my mom did an amazing job of like setting up my actually mom's an event coordinator. So we used her space, set it up amazing. Really cool space for about 75 people. We worked to get all the invites out. A lot of my friends came and supported me, you know, a lot of my mom's friends. So I think when the party first kicked off, I didn't know what to expect, right? We brought 100 books with us. So, you know, for other launch parties that look at this in the future, what we thought was like, hey, this is an investment for me. This is personal. Like I want everyone to leave with a book, as long as they buy the ebook, right? So we had 100 books. In the book, we had instructions on how to buy the ebook, why it was important. Um, if they want reviews, right? I have copies I could send them. So it was, hey, show up to the party, you know, have a glass of wine, get some hors d'oeuvres, get a book, buy the ebook, right? But the first hour was crazy because so many people came in and then everyone's wanting me to sign it, right? And something that I wanted to do was everyone that came, I gave a personal note in the book, right? It wasn't just a signature. So I was trying to manage all that, but it was like the first hour was a whirlwind. And then, you know, it was more my friends came on the back half. So then it was fun, right? I was like, wow, like
Yeah.
this is amazing. The support I had was so awesome. And then, you know, it was funny at the very end of the party, my sister, like we checked where I'm at. I was like at number 3. And my sister's like, if you haven't bought the ebook, buy the ebook now. And all my friends, they took their phone out. And then we went out after for like an hour to celebrate. We were still like not there. And I'm like, dang, like we're so close. Like I got to get this today. And then we walk into the house at like, I think it was like 11. And I look and it was like, I think we had just been texting. You were like, you're so close. You're so close. Keep pushing and walk in. It's like number 1 in like 2 categories. We're like, all right, we did it.
Yeah.
So it was a relief. I'm like, all right, we can enjoy Thanksgiving now.
It's so dude, man, every time as you were saying that it reminds me to my first book launch. Like there's something special about that day, right?
Mhm.
And then bringing people together and then getting the buy-in of everybody and like I don't know about you, but like there's never been anything that I've ever promoted or that I've ever done that warranted more support from
Yeah,
the people close to me and from people that I didn't even know were still like in my world
yeah.
than my book launch. Did you notice that same thing? Like the level of support was beyond anything you could have imagined, both from people you're close with now, but also people from your past.
100%. Yeah. And I think it's just like, it's such a hard, like it takes such commitment to write a book. You know, a lot of people can say they want to do something, but to sit down and write, you know, a full book, that's a lot of time and commitment to do that. So I think when people see you do, it's like, wow, like that's pretty awesome, you know? And like
Yeah.
a lot of people I hadn't seen for a while, they're like, I didn't know you wanted to be an author. I didn't know you wanted to write a book. I'm like, yeah, I just kind of had that, you know, inkling to myself, but they were like, that's so cool. Like, we're so proud of you. So like, yeah, I felt the support, you know, from everyone. It meant so much. And, you know, I didn't do it to become an author, right? I did it to like impact others and just, you know, hopefully leave something behind in this world that if someone picks it up at a library one day or, comes across every shot counts, that, it impacts their life. Like that's why I did it,
Who
but
knows? Maybe this will be
personally,
on John Gordon's holiday recommended list, you know?
yeah, exactly. If we
Um,
could get there, we can get it there, let's go.
so this is great. So the book is this, right? It's a parable around the concept of golf and life, right? And the parallels there to find fulfillment. And your main character is Jack, and as you mentioned, there's an enigmatic caddy, right? The caddy that's the guide, right? The spiritual being that leads the
Yeah.
person on their adventure. These are my favorite style of books because I feel like I'm reading something where I'm not like in fantasy land because it's like business principles, but I also feel like I'm reading fiction because I get to like actually follow along a path in a story. So what I'd love to hear real quickly is like, why did you, and you alluded to it earlier, but like why did you choose to make this a parable type of book that has business and life lessons in it
Mhm.
versus just creating the same lessons, but in a more how to or guide style book?
Yeah, I think to your point, I went back to like those are the books I've always just loved, right? Like I loved The Alchemist was like is my favorite book ever. Like even though the Energy Bus impacted me, and no offense, John, I love the book. It's not like you're 1A, 1B for me in my book realm. Like I read The Alchemist in high school and I was just like instantly I'm like, oh my gosh, I love these books. And I read it again in college when I had to make a life decision and read it again. Then read it again for a third time. Like I'll probably read it again. Like it's just one of those that it's such an easy read, but it like impacts you. And then I also love like the regular books too, like the regular you know, what do I call like personal development type books. Like there's a ton of them out there that are amazing. I love those too. Those, there's some that like I'm reading one right now. I've taken a lot of great tidbits from it, but also it's like when I read those, I got to get like in a mindset.
Yeah.
I gotta be like, all right, I'm here to learn. I'm here to do this versus like a story type of one. You can kind of read it more casually and then get the life like goodness that I like to get from it. So I've always been more attracted to that. Like it's just in my
Cool.
lifestyle right now that I like that. And then, when I was looking at, um, doing it, kind of like a s- a personal development book versus the parallel is, at that time I was still like very early in my career. I was kind of like, what have I done to write a book to tell somebody here's a good thing to do. So that's when I was like, look, I'm using a lot of the lessons that the principles and the mantras in the books were something that I was working on in my life. And I think I remember a lot of them, like when we were having my firstborn son and we were moving from the East Coast to the West Coast, like I was really working on myself. I'm like, hey, I'm transitioning from doing everything I want to do to I'm being a dad. And so a lot of these things I was just trying to incorporate daily. And so when you get into that book, those were things that I actively had in the past couple of years said, hey, I need to work on this because I'm not good at this, right? Like I'm not good at the balance piece some of these
Right.
things. So what the way when I did the book was it's not an autobiography by whatsoever, but there are elements that I weave into
Of
my life
course.
and what I've seen, like the software sales piece. But a little bit about Jack. He was a great sales guy, a great software salesman who's having a little rough time, right? But I picked in elements from my life that small ones that kind of weave through the book with like principles and mantras that I have been actively been adopting. And
Yeah.
so when I put it all together, I'm like, okay, I think that's a cool way to tell the story without trying to
Yeah.
be. I'm not trying to be preachy. I'm not trying
Yep.
to say I'm this know-all guru at 30 years old at the time I wrote it. But hey, this is a path that people can walk and take some of these lessons and hopefully use them in their life. So
Yeah, man. I love it. I think it's so great. And I want everyone to go get a copy of Every Shot
yeah,
Counts and read about Jack's story. But I want to
yeah.
ask you a personal question here, and there might be some overlap is, as you play golf and as you wrote the book, if you could give one lesson from the book that they'll learn about Jack's journey without spoiling, the story. But if there's one lesson that you put in the book that you would say is relevant to your personal life and how it's related to golf, what's that one lesson that someone could take away from listening to this that you have?
Yes, that's a great question. I think like the one so so maybe to like tie it to the book, right, is in golf, like when I first started off, my one mission was I want to lower my handicap, right? Like everyone wants to get better. Like everyone wants to go from the hundreds to the 90s to the 80s, 80s to the 70s. Like that's your goal, right? That's why I think golf's such a cool sport is you can track yourself, your progress, right? Like your score matters, all that.
Totally.
Even now, I've gotten a lot better, but I would say like when I was writing this book, like my sole focus was like, I need to be in the 90s consistently. I need to be an X handicap, right? Where I would get in a golf round and that was my sole focus. And so I was only worried about the end score. What constitutes the end score? Whereas like golf, like the beauty of golf and why I love it and why I have to remind myself this if I'm having a bad round is, you're out in nature for 4 hours and every shot is a unique opportunity. You can't think about the end game. You can't think about, am I going to shoot 90 today? Or am I going to shoot 98? Am I going to shoot 85? Right. It's truly about being in the moment, every shot. And the cool thing about it is those shots all count. Like when you get to that end score, they all add up, but you can't be thinking about the end goal. So when you look at that with life, right, you can't be sitting here like, what am I use this like, what am I going to be when I'm 88, right? Like I'm not looking to 88. I'm looking at in this moment right now, what are we doing, right? We're on a podcast chopping it up. You need to do the same thing at golf, enjoy that shot, look at each shot as its own unique opportunity because it does count. Every shot counts, right? But you can't be thinking about the last shot that happened, which I used to do all the time. I shanked it into the woods, right? That shot's done with. If you made a mistake in life, learn from it, grow, move on, and you can't be thinking about, is this my final score? Like there's so many more holes or so many shots to play, right? So I think that's a great parallel to life is you need to
Yeah.
stay in the moment, focus on that shot that you have right now. And over time, they will all add up and they count.
Dude, I love that. I love that. I think about my golf adventure. At the time of recording this, I've been playing for a little over a year and a quarter, I would say now. And like you think about all these things. You're outside for 4 hours, often with your buddies. Like
Yeah,
you're walking, you're getting exercise, you're enjoying the good weather, you're shooting the shit. Like that's what it's all about. And then
no
of
doubt.
course you want to improve the skill set in the game, but if you're so focused on how bad you're playing, you're going to miss out on the enjoyment of life. And that's what we miss out on so often as entrepreneurs and human beings is we get so focused on the little things. We get so focused on the things that don't actually matter. And then we allow that to take a way higher percentage of our mental capacity to eliminate the opportunity for pure enjoyment in this life. So I love that lesson. I love chatting with you, man. How do we get the book? How do we follow you? How do we experience Every Shot Counts?
Yeah, and I will say how you just said that 100%, brother. I need to like take that recording and talk about that, and I'm going to make that a post. That truly that's what it's about. I love it, man. But yeah, so you can reach me on LinkedIn if you're in the professional world, just Kevin Donoher, and then on Instagram, kdon2249. You can reach me there, and then the book's on Amazon, so that's where I'm pushing everyone to go to. So. I think we'll put the link in to buy
Yeah.
either the ebook or the paper book. And really appreciate the support. And if you read the book and there's something you like or makes an impact, I'd love to hear from you guys. That's really why I did it, right? Was to hopefully leave this world better than you found it. And
Yeah.
that's the cool thing about a book is it's there now. It's timeless. So.
I love it. I
I
love
could have
it.
done it
Kevin
without you
Don.
guys. So thank you so much, Jake, and your team. Literally wouldn't have happened without you guys. It was truly incredible working with you and excited to see where this goes in the future.
Awesome. Awesome. Everyone, that's Kevin Donoher, best-selling author of Every Shot Counts. And we finish every episode here with a challenge, okay? Now, based on this, I'm coming up with a challenge right now. What we talked about towards the end, right? And the parallel between sports and business, sports and life, golf and life. Here's my challenge to you. What is something in your life? Ask yourself, what is something in your life or even someone in your life that you're giving way too much of your energy and your time and your capacity of life? Where is that? And then what can you do to reduce that? What can you do to make sure that the life you're living is full of joy and fulfillment? If it's a person, maybe you see them a little bit less. If it's a thing, maybe you adjust your schedule. Where can you find somewhere to find more fulfillment in your life? That's the challenge for you. Think about it. Buy the book. Every shot counts. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.